Today I'm paid to mention DYU for this review of their R1 bike. So being paid to mention this bike by DYU is that they gave me the bike for free. And although this is probably not a bike that I will end up using a whole lot, I checked it out. I can tell you when it would be useful and some of the features on it. So right now this goes for $800 with free shipping on the DYU website, as compared to this one, which is the V1, goes for $600, but the differences between these two folding bikes is actually quite large. This one, although the seat is nice and chunky, the small tires make it rather uncomfortable to ride. You hit a bump and you get jacked. The suspension is more of an idea of having suspension than actual suspension. You can see all that travel. Look, I mean, it's almost a half of an inch before bottoming out. So this one isn't so much a comfort bike, but if you have a price point and you don't need pedals and you're only going a couple of miles, it folds up just fine. It does its job. Does one of these numbers, bam. There we go. Works just fine. What this is going to be really sweet for me to do, since we have a steel frame, is to make something else from it though. So that's probably what we're going to do. The improvements of this bike, besides being a functionally rideable size in my opinion, it does have pedals. It is geared pretty tall though. Totally fine for riding around. But if you do run out of battery and there's a really steep hill, it could potentially cause problems. The battery is located in this seat post, so when you go to ride, you just jack this seat post up. Then when you go to store it in your car or whatever, you just lay it back down. The charge port is right here, since the batteries are actually located in the seat post tube itself. You can see how big that seat post is, but there's our charge port. And then our power to connect to the rest of the bike is this little plug right here. So if you got a second battery / seat post, you would also need an extra seat for easy exchanging, but you could if you needed more range. And I want to say that they offer an accessory where you like put an extra pack on the back rack here, and then there's like a Y harness, or you just switch from one battery to the other on this. I want to say I remember seeing that somewhere. Don't quote me on it, but the rack itself is pretty stout. It likes to catch a lot of dust out here, but it's stout enough that I could actually ride it like this. Maybe we need a little air in the tires right now, but otherwise it's actually kind of a nice bike for the price. And here's our folding, same as the other bike, just there you go. It actually gets pretty small, and if you take off the wheels, then it's even smaller. It does have the disc brakes front and rear. They work extremely well, to tell you the truth. Something on an e-bike that you do need. It does have lights and just all the little details actually. So let's boot it up here. I believe this is our power button located up here. Here we go. So it powers up. There's a bell, but there is no throttle on this bike. It's just a pedal assist bike, and it is a torque sensor pedal assist. So if I give just a little bit of pressure, it wants to go. It's actually nicely done. You put it in mode 1 with these up and down buttons, and it gives you just a teeny bit of assistance. And then if you put it up to I think mode 3 is the most. So I'm just barely pushing with my feet, and it has a torque sensor somewhere in there. I would assume that the torque sensor is going to be in the actual bottom bracket itself. That's pretty standard these days, but it's kind of like being Superman, and it's pretty well executed. So I'm not even putting pressure hardly on the pedals, and it's just going, of course, with the very deflated tires right now. But it's kind of an interesting feeling to have this sensitive of a pedal assist, to where it's not just an RPM cadence sensor, it is actual torque. So the harder that I pedal, the more oomph that it gives, which is pretty cool. So why would you want one of these is the big question. If you have a commute that has that last mile sort of thing to it, and honestly this probably has 10 miles of range with practically no pedaling, but if you have just a few miles of range, perfect example would be when I was going into college. parking on campus was really a big problem. Not only was it as expensive, but generally it was hard to actually find parking spaces unless you paid for, recurring parking in a parking garage or something like that. A lot of the lots on the outside would fill up, the street parking would fill up, and the parking garage structures was kind of expensive to get that tag. So what I would do is I would actually just park off campus, and at the time I was building mini bikes like this size and smaller from just e-bike parts and RC batteries and stuff like that. So I did this before these were even available on the market, just because it's such a good idea to be able to throw this into your back seat or your trunk or whatever, fold it down, make sure it's turned off first. There we go. Fold it down, throw it in the back, and then when you get to your parking, maybe a few miles away from campus or what have you, I would park on West Campus in my later years, and then I would just ride my bike in, and that way there was free parking, there was always parking available, and if there wasn't parking available, I would just go like one street over to where people are kind of lazy enough to where if they're walking, they don't want to go a whole nother quarter mile or whatever the case may be. But on something like this, no big deal. So it really is perfect for that final mile or last mile sort of commute, to where maybe you're going to save some money that way. Maybe you can avoid having a cab ride, or maybe you can avoid having actual parking costs. Park a little bit further away, ride your butt in on this thing, lock it up at the bike rack, ride it back to your car. You get home that night, and you can actually just take this out, just like so. If you wanted to, bring this inside to your home, and then you would charge your battery like this. And on a bike like this, it actually does have a lock. So you don't have to worry about people stealing it while you're inside, unless, oh yeah, I just locked that by accident. Can't put that back together. There's our keys. So yes, maybe I can. But you could take this inside. Potentially you could take this inside, and while you're working, you don't have to worry about somebody stealing the battery, which honestly, if somebody's going to be a thief, that's kind of the least of my worries, is that they're just going to get that part. They're probably going to cut the lock, take the entire bike, in my opinion, but whatever. Locks are just to keep honest people honest. There you go. All right, so we'll get this back. Good enough. It's fine. I'll deal with that later. And that's pretty much that. It's a fairly useful device. Actually, whenever we take a ride down to the store or something like that and we don't have anything else available, you see there's 4 electric vehicles on the dock right now. We got electric scooter over there, the Suron, this bike, that bike. I have more electric vehicles inside. We have options. So sometimes we'll take this when it's needed, and that's what it's great for. Just a couple miles here, a couple miles here, no, there. A couple miles in both directions. It works out pretty well. So if you do have any more questions about it, I'll do my best to answer. But that pretty much covers it. I think that's everything that entails this relatively comfortable folding bike. But if you do have questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to get to them. As always, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.